we start with prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamutiraya. Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nishtaki. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namah. Namo Pankajanabhaya Namo Pankajamalini Namo Pankajangratan Namo Pankajanetraya Ste Pankajangrahe. So we are talking about from Canto, we're reading Canto 2, Chapter 3, which is Pure Devotional Service, the Change in Heart. The text is text 19. Svavidvara varahushtra kare samstuta purusha pashu nayat karna patho peto jatu nama gadagraja. Sva, a dog. Vidvaraha, a village hog who eats stool. Ushtra, the camel. Khare, and by the asses. Samstuta, perfectly praised. Purusha, a person. Pashuhu, animal. Na, never. Yat, of him. Karna, ear. Patha, path. Upeta, reached. Jatu, at any time. Nama, the holy name. Gadagraja, Lord Krishna, the deliverer from all evils. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses praise those men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, the deliverer from evils. Purport. The general mass of people, unless they are trained systematically for a higher standard of life and spiritual values, are no better than animals. And in this verse, they have particularly been put on the level of dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. Modern university education practically prepares one to acquire a doggish mentality with which to accept the service of a greater master. After finishing a so-called education, the so-called educated persons move like dogs from door to door with applications for some service. And mostly they're driven away, informed of no vacancy. As dogs are negligible animals and serve the master faithfully for bits of bread, a man serves a master faithfully without sufficient rewards. Persons who have no discrimination in the matter of foodstuff and who eat all sorts of rubbish are compared to hogs. Hogs are very much attached to eating stool. So, stool is a kind of foodstuff for a particular type of animal. And even stones are eatable for a particular type of animal or bird. But the human being is not meant for eating everything and anything. He is meant to eat grains, vegetables, fruits, milk, sugar, etc. Animal food is not meant for the human being. Chewing solid food, the human being has a particular type of teeth meant for cutting fruits and vegetables. The human being is endowed with 2 canine teeth as a concession for persons who will eat animal food at any cost. It is known to everyone that one man's food is another man's poison. Human beings are expected to accept the remnants of food offered to Lord Sri Krishna, and the Lord accepts foodstuff from the categories of leaves, fruit, flowers, fruits, etc. Bhagavad Gita 9.26. As prescribed by Vedic scriptures, no animal food is offered to the Lord. Therefore, the human being is meant to eat a particular type of food. He should not imitate the animals to derive so-called vitamin values. Therefore, a person who has no discrimination in regard to eating is compared to a hog. The camel is a kind of animal that takes pleasure in eating thorns. A person who wants to enjoy family life or the worldly life of so-called enjoyment is compared to the camel. Materialistic life is full of thorns, and so one should live only by the prescribed method of Vedic regulations, just to make the best use of a bad bargain. Life in the material world is maintained by sucking one's own blood. The central point of attraction for material enjoyment is sex life. To enjoy sex life is to suck one's own blood, and there is not much more to be explained in this connection. The camel also sucks its own blood while chewing thorny twigs. The thorns the camel eats cut the tongue of the camel, and so blood begins to flow within the camel's mouth. The thorns mixed with fresh blood creates a taste for the foolish camel, and so he enjoys the thorn-eating business with false pleasure. Similarly, the great business magnates, industrialists who work very hard to earn money by different ways and questionable means, eat the thorny results of their actions mixed with their own blood. Therefore, the Bhagavatam has situated these diseased fellows along with the camels. The ass is an animal who is celebrated as the greatest fool, even amongst the animals. The ass works very hard and carries burdens of the maximum weight without making profit for itself. The ass is generally engaged by the washerman, whose social position is not very respectable, and the special qualification of the ass is that it is very much accustomed to being kicked by the opposite sex. When the ass begs for sexual intercourse, he is kicked by the fair sex. Yet he still follows the female for such sexual pleasure. A henpecked man is compared, therefore, to the ass. The general mass of people work very hard, especially in the age of Kali. In this age, the human being is actually engaged in the work of an ass, carrying heavy burdens and driving thelas and rickshaws. The so-called advancement of human civilization has engaged a human being in the work of an ass. The laborers in great factories and workshops are also engaged in such burdensome work. And after working hard during the day, the poor laborer has to be again kicked by the fair sex, not only for sex enjoyment, but also for so many household affairs. So, Srimad Bhagavatam's categorization of the common man without any spiritual enlightenment into the society of dogs, hogs, camels, and asses is not at all an exaggeration. The leaders of such ignorant masses of people may feel very proud of being adored by such a number of dogs and hogs, but that is not very flattering. The Bhagavatam openly declares that although a person may be a great leader of such dogs and hogs disguised as men, if he has no taste for being enlightened in the science of Krishna, such a leader is also an animal and nothing more. He may be designated as a powerful, strong animal or a big animal, but in the estimation of Srimad Bhagavatam, he is never given a place in the category of man on account of his atheistic temperament. Or in other words, such godless leaders of dogs and hog-like men are bigger animals with the qualities of animals in greater proportion. Go with offer prayers to our Guru Parampara and seek their blessings. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapatantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatha Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Tamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bantu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Ve Pranamami Priye Vanchakaltarusya Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavane Vaishnavebhyo Namah. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavind. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare. Welcome to this morning's Bhagavatam discussion. I have one more opportunity to present a verse from the Bhagavatam, and while I'm totally unqualified, I have taken up this service as an opportunity for my purification. So I ardently seek the blessings of the assembled devotees and my Guru Maharaj, so I may speak something of some value. So this verse, in fact, Prabhupada's purport is so comprehensive and so well, simply explained that it really does not need any additional inclusion. However, Prabhupada has actually given multiple lectures on this verse. So I'll try to, present some of the points that I picked up from some of those lectures from Srila Prabhupada. So this verse is actually a set of verses. Start from verse 17, which we've been hearing for the past couple of days, 17 and 18, and now 19, which criticizes those who do not care to hear Harikatha. And in fact, this particular verse, as I was saying, Srila Prabhupada has not only lectured on, but he has quoted several times. We are reading the Lilamrita, as you may be aware, preparation for the arrival of Srila Prabhupada to our ISKCON Naperville temple. And what I found is that even in the very early days in the US, Prabhupada had actually quoted this verse and talked about elevating from the lives of hogs and dog-like living. So, in fact, in the famous Cross Maidan Pandal in Mumbai, he had presented this particular verse to present the futility of human birth, that a human is no better than an animal if he does not listen to the transcendental pastimes of Hari. So, and the fact that literally, that makes us simply a two-legged animal, Purusha Pashuhu, no better than that. So why is that? And, everybody that's assembled here knows very well, but still we need reminding sometimes. I know I need reminding often, so I'll just repeat. So this human life, as we know, is meant for learning how to engage our senses in the service of the Lord. So Prabhupada says that is the mission of the human life. In all of our other lives, right, we have been engaged in sense gratification, been through over 8 million such lives in various different forms. And in this life, finally, we have received developed consciousness, a consciousness with which we can make a choice, right, to engage our senses in the right way, which, as we know, so to engage our senses in serving the Lord and to escape from this material prison house and go back to our real home, back to Godhead. And the ear is the most important sense organ because spiritual enlightenment begins from hearing. So, Nayat Karna Patho Peto, right? Through oral reception is what Prabhupada is saying. The Bhagavatam is saying. So if one hears from a realized soul, a guru in the parampara system, then the message of the Lord, one does not need to use any other senses. Just by hearing, one's life will be successful. In fact, in a few verses before, verse 12, Shukadev Goswami had said that transcendental knowledge in relation with the Supreme Lord Hari is um, knowledge resulting in the complete suspension of the waves and whirlpools of the material moods. Such knowledge is self-satisfying due to its being free from material attachment, and being transcendental, it is approved by authorities. Who could fail to be attracted? Right? And that was the verse. Who could fail to be attracted to this transcendental knowledge of the Supreme Lord? And in this verse, the Bhagavatam talks about who can actually fail to be attracted to the message of the Lord. So Shaunaka Rishi is saying that those who do not take advantage of this ability to hear about Krishna are considered to be great only by persons who are like animals. So, so once again, a person may think that he is really great, but if he doesn't hear about Krishna Katha, about the transcendental message, then he would be praised only by people who are animal-like. What kind of animals? The ones that are in the category of dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. So only such people would praise, similar people like them and vote for similar people like them. And we know how Prabhupada, opposes the democratic way of selecting leaders, right? He's mentioned that many times in many of his lectures. And this verse is giving an indication of why, that is the reason why. Because if the people that are casting the votes are not qualified, then the leaders that they select will be the same, right? Unqualified. And we see that abundantly in contemporary times. We know that, we know from Bhagavad Gita, from the Bhagavatam, that leaders should be guiding the citizens towards the higher realization of self, of God. Like Yudhishthira, who was chosen by Krishna, right? He should be the king. Or in contrast, Prith Maharaj's father, Vena, he was removed not by public opinion, but by learned brahmanas and saintly sages, saintly sages of the kingdom. So if you look at the specific animals that are being talked about here, the first one is dog. Prabhupada says that modern university education practically prepares one to acquire a doggish mentality with which to accept the service of a greater master. After finishing a so-called education, the so-called educated person move like dogs from door to door with applications for some service, and mostly they're driven away because there's no vacancy. As dogs are negligible animals and serve the master faithfully for bits of bread, a man serves the master faithfully without sufficient rewards. So unfortunately, a lot of us are in that category, right? We look to serve some unworthy master and are possibly serving some unworthy master. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that that is actually the activity of a Shudra. The Shudra's activities and action is labor and service to others, paricharya. Of course, the unfortunate thing is that these days, man's best friend has become a dog, right? While the cow, who is a mother by virtue of giving milk to us, is sent to the slaughterhouse. That's kind of the degraded state of Kali Yuga. But Prabhupada says in one of his lectures that there is a way to avoid being a stray dog, right? Going from door to door, seeking service just for bits of bread. What's that? That is surrendering to a much more glorious master, Sri Krishna. So if we surrender to to Krishna, then our condition becomes like, like a dog who's the pet of a rich person, right? So the dog will have a nice jeweled collar, be carried around by the master and his servants, and the dog really has nothing to worry about, never goes hungry, lives in as much luxury as its master. So that's, that's the way to go, right? Now, the next one is hogs. So in the purport, Prabhupada says that persons who have no discrimination in the matter of foodstuff and who eat all sorts of rubbish are compared to hogs. Hogs are much attracted to eating stool. So stool is a kind of food for a particular type of animal. Krishna has given us sufficient grains, vegetables, milk, sugar, and in Bhagavad Gita, he has given us very clear, unambiguous direction that, what is it that we should offer him and accept as prasad. So, patram pushpam phalam toyam, little leaf, flower, fruit, water. And even as Prabhupada says, the structure of our teeth is made to cut fruits and vegetables, right? Not really to tear meat, which animals like tigers and others have, right? So, however, we do have two pairs of canines, which is, as Prabhupada says, is a concession for those who absolutely cannot do without meat. Now, the incredible thing is that some institutions, even some religious institutions, say that you can eat anything you desire and that it won't affect your spiritual progress. But Prabhupada very clearly says that that's nonsense. In fact, in Srimad Bhagavatam, the second verse, way early, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2, it says that such religions are called dharma projita kaitava, or testing religions, because one has to become pure, in every way, body, mind, to understand Krishna. Krishna is the purest of the pure. So how can one, stay contaminated like that and try to endeavor to understand Krishna? And then later in Canto 10, there is mention of Jina Pashu Kyanat. And it's actually verse 10.1.4, where the translation goes as, who but the animal killer or the killer of the soul will not care to hear glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Such glorification is enjoyed by persons liberated from the contamination of this material world. So, animal killers is absolutely prohibited, right? That's absolutely not the way to go. Of course, in Kali Yuga, we are all fallen in some way or the other. Therefore, it is very difficult for us to hear and understand and internalize the glorification of the Supreme Lord. But it is by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy that we have somehow received the Harinam, with which we have actually a chance to go back to Godhead. Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Coming to the camel, Prabhupada talks about the camel as a person who wants to enjoy family life, or the worldly life of so-called enjoyment is compared to the camel. So materialistic life is full of thorns, and so one should live only by the prescribed method of Vedic regulations, just to make the best use of a bad bargain. We know that the camel chews thorny twigs and finds them tasty, not understanding that it is actually tasting its own blood from the severe cuts from the thorns in its mouth. And business magnates and industrialists try to earn money using those same means, right? Just do anything that's needed, any means for getting economic gain. And they end up suffering thorny results, just mixed with their own blood. So Prabhupada says that the path back to Godhead is not easy. In fact, he gives an example of men shaving with a sharp razor. If it is done attentively and carefully, it can give great results. Have a nice clean face, but a little inattention will make a person completely bloody. So he says that therefore we have to avoid the thorns, right, of life, of material life, which is abundantly present. How? By giving attention by being attentive to the regulative principles and chanting our rounds carefully. And then coming to the asses, we know the asses very well. They are the Dushkritina Mura, which Krishna talks about. They're the kind that cannot even approach Krishna. And in the purport, Prabhupada has said that the ass is an animal who is celebrated as the greatest fool even amongst the animals. The ass works very hard, carries burdens of the maximum weight without making any profit for itself. And we know that the ass, all it needs is some grass at the end of the day, which the master throws its way. And it's grass which the ass can find anywhere along the way, anywhere that it's walking, there is grass available. But yet it works so hard for the master. And the general mass of people are karmis in that category, working day and night, earning big money. But what really does a person need? I mean, a few chapatis, a few morsels of food. One really can't, pick much more than that. And yet we keep endeavoring and losing out on precious time, which should be used for a much higher purpose, for a much higher profit, as Prabhupada mentions. A profit that is much more longer lasting, right, than specific material form that we are in. In fact, Prabhupada in one of his lectures challenges the devotees. This is in 1972. He says that it is the responsibility of the devotees to educate the men who are like dogs, hogs, animals, and asses, and convert them to devotees. So that's the challenge. I mean, I shouldn't say them. I mean, I'm not much higher than them anyway. But whatever knowledge, whatever seed of bhakti we have somehow by some good fortune gotten sown in our hearts, we must use that to help others. And at the end of it all, it is actually hearing about Krishna, chanting the Harinam, that helps to deliver. I mean, we don't really have to over endeavor. We don't have to depend on a lot of degrees from colleges, universities, because all this material knowledge that we gain anyway from colleges and universities is not really suited for the real self that that we are, the spirit soul that we are. This material knowledge can take us only to a certain extent. Prabhupada, in fact, gives the examples of gopis. Gopis are simple village girls. I mean, they haven't gone to college. Where's their education? Yet their love for Krishna is so great that it's known that they have conquered over Krishna. Krishna is not able to leave Vrindavan because of the love of gopis. And this is all by gopis have just learned of Krishna by hearing about him. And gopis, we know, are the most sought after. Even they are followed by great Vaishnavas, Gyanis. Raganuga Bhakti is the aspiration of all of us practicing by these sadhana. In the footnote, Prabhupada has said that human life is meant for earning values. And the greatest value of life is to return back to Godhead. In fact, he says human life is so important that even demigods aspire for a human body. And why? Because the conditions and characteristics of the human life in this earth is actually perfect for going back to Godhead. We've learned that in the higher planets, things are a little too comfortable, a little too luxurious, like being on a vacation, just want to relax. So knowing that, having gotten this such an important body, such an important state, if we are not able to reestablish our lost relationship with Krishna, and instead we get all entangled and involved in illusory engagements and stay attached to our material desires, economic development, then we are only drinking poison, right? And wasting our time. Yesterday, in fact, Kathamrita Mathaji narrated the story of the boat full of groom the bridegroom's party, trying to go to the bride's home for the wedding, but they had forgotten to remove the anchor, right? And while they were rowing, they just did not go anywhere. So similarly, if we do not develop detachment from this material world and our shelters, our false shelters in our house, savings, our family, relatives, and while of course at the same time nurturing our attachment to Krishna through hearing and chanting, we are simply wasting our life. And Narottam Das Thakur has in fact beautifully said this in his bhajan. Pull that up, Hari Hari Viphale Gawain. So this is the last thing, but I'll just go through this and leave this as a meditation for us. So it goes, Hari Hari Viphale Janama Gawainu, Manusha Janama Loya, Radha Krishna Na Bhujiya, Janiya Shuniya Vishakhain. So if you look at the translation, it says, O Lord Hari, I have spent my life uselessly. Having obtained a human birth and having not worshipped Radha and Krishna, I have knowingly drunk poison. The treasure of divine love with Goloka Vrindavan has descended as the congregational chanting of Lord Hari's holy names. Why did my attraction for that chanting never come about? Day and night, my heart burns from the fire of the poison of worldliness, and I have not taken the means to relieve it. Lord Krishna, who is the son of the king of Vraja, became the son of Sachi, Lord Chaitanya, and Balaram became Nitai. The holy name delivered all those souls who were lowly and wretched. The two sinners, Jagai and Madhai, are evidence of this. O Lord Krishna, son of Nanda, accompanied by the daughter of Rishabhanu, please be merciful to me now. Lord Narottama Das says, O Lord, please do not push me away from your reddish lotus feet, for who is my beloved except for you? Thank you very much. I'll stop here. Sorry if I've spoken anything. All of you must have heard this verse and the lectures from Prabhupada multiple times. So please add on. I don't really have much depth in realization of philosophy, but basically just grateful to have had the opportunity to glorify and meditate upon Srimad Bhagavatam by virtue of this opportunity. So please add or correct.
And Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Cintamani Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. It was a wonderful class, and so elevating Narottama Das Thakur's kirtan at the end. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
My mind goes back to what you said in the middle, that nowadays the dogs have become the master and the cows are being sent to the slaughterhouses, and we are reaping the reactions. Srila Prabhupada has said, when the cows are so unrestrictedly slaughtered, there will be war always. And we had a break from having a war at all in the last so many years. There has been a war somewhere or the other, and one is going on very badly now also. Srila Prabhupada's predictions and his teachings, it is so, it's so required for the world, but are anybody paying any attention, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Very, very, very nice class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Yes, absolutely. And when there is some respite from war, there is the pandemic that takes over. As you said, we are reaping the actions. So, okay, so we are 5 minutes over, so we will end for today. Shri Kripa Sindhu Danan Papane Krishna Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari
Hare Hare Bol.
Krishna.